document. Okay, call to order this meeting of the JMRL Board Policy Committee. And our agenda for today is as follows. I think we're basically not, often we're midstream on one policy or another, and I think we've at a break point where we've finished off all the things we were working on, and we're ready to start on a new little stack. I think we were able to at least briefly intro this last meeting, and then of course there was a email in the meantime. But what's in front of us is kind of a group of loosely related policies that have a kind of a theme about board governance. And what we wanted to do is basically pop each of them open, go through our usual practice of identifying bullet points that are important to carry forward from these. But we also wanted to look for opportunities to consolidate some of these, either together as sort of a umbrella board governance type of policy, or some of these may, for example, in my mind, public hearings might be able to be consolidated with a different existing policy, where we're talking about public comment, for example. So we're just looking for ways to simplify. We want to make sure we get all the necessary policy points in place, but they may not necessarily follow this exact format, and there may be a more streamlined format to consolidate. Okay, any comments or questions with that intro? Okay, given that, I think we can just sort of pop them up one at a time, and we also have them in the handout in front of us.
You need to call Camille remote participation?
No, she's not up, trustee.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Camille.
That's okay.
I don't mind not being.
You can provide valuable input at any time without a special vote. Okay, so the first one is
Effectively a table of contents.
yeah.
So these are mostly the policies that we're talking about here, except for the regional agreement and the administrative services agreement and board bylaws. All three of which probably are not up for timed review and probably need to remain their own documents. Two of those are out of the board's hands, and one of them is the bylaws are a whole board thing, basically. So, if you think about the policy manual as being the big binder, this was the beginning of the board section of the binder.
And it's not a policy.
It is a policy,
I know, but
it's not really a
not
policy. Right.
So
So I would recommend that this one can be.
I would recommend that. I would approve that.
I say,
It's too confusing with these two.
It made sense when you were flipping through a binder, like, okay, well, here's this section. No other sections of the policy manual have a similar.
But in the regular paper, in the policy manual, these are indexed.
Currently in the policy manual, they're on a web page basically, and what you're looking at is the table of contents.
This just repeats it,
Yeah.
basically, when
So
you're
this-
looking at it now.
This is not necessary.
I agree.
And it's confusing.
Agreed.
Okay, but at the same time, it sort of will be replicated outside of the policy manual itself, just as part of this presentation on the website. So there is or will be a web page that's
The-
kind of indexes the policy. the
Right.
actual policy.
And well, we have that now, and
Yeah. Right.
that's what the web page looks like, which is basically the index of the table of contents for the entire policy manual. So this document is for section
All
one.
the things, yeah. That's,
And I'll just throw out as a broader, not really to discuss today, but we've been talking for years, and this could be the year when we have space to do it. We've been talking for years about reorganizing and maybe renumbering some of these and putting them in a different order, and that makes sense to stakeholders and so forth. So could be a follow-on exercise. Great, okay, so we can move on, I think, from 1.2.
So wait, can we make that a recommendation to the
Yeah,
board?
we're noting it for ourselves. We'll put together a consolidated recommendation,
Okay,
but that's our first bullet point essentially that we're coming up with for today.
I would say, oh, then now's a good time to discuss it though. I would say present the board the whole, like, here's what we're doing.
Right.
Remove these 5 and we're gonna make this one, whatever we end up with.
Yeah, I think our goal is to come with a package within the next, couple of meetings.
So the next one that's up for review, one that's also, so the bylaw is not up for review currently. This 1.2 is, the next one is 1.22 goals and planning. Can everybody see that? It's kind of, we're on a small screen today. Or you should have it. But I'll read it. The library board will set goals for the library system annually and will develop a comprehensive 5-year plan that's updated annually to meet the requirements of state aid to public. I think the first question is, does this need to be its own separate policy? There's important information here, but does it need to be its own separate 1.22?
no,
I guess to answer that, I would have to see, so,
Where
Yeah.
is it?
yeah, first of all, is the content of this a bullet point that we need to document in policy somewhere? And then the second question is if so, where would that bullet point go?
And my recommendation, and thumb on the scale, is that there's a new policy 1.2 that's called either board procedures or board governance or something like that, that will, all the elements that we identify as being important out of these will go there. Unless you decide, like, for example, for public hearings that belongs someplace else. But I'm saying let's take one of those numbers and just make a one ring to bind them policy for the board.
Mhm.
and this would be like an introductory
That can be part of it.
preamble, so that
Yeah, this seems very similar to the sort of introduction that we have at the top of a lot of the policies.
The why.
right,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say this does have action, these are action items. And I'm not sure we actually do set goals for the library system annually. In practice, I'm not sure we're doing that right now. We do have the 5-year plan. And I
The
think
library director's goals.
yeah, we have director goals, which are, of course, closely related to goals for the system.
Yeah.
And we review the comprehensive 5-year plan,
Right,
which is the library system goals.
right.
right. So,
So in terms of wording, we don't need to have goals for the library system annually.
I mean, this is to me a very much a board level discussion about what you all want. I think it's a bit of semantics here, but it's important semantics because, for example, in our strategic plan, the board's policy is a very broad 2-page statement. And then there's a 20-page, by this year, this person is doing that is staff procedure on how to meet the board's policy. So to Mike's point, that's not the board setting those goals, that's library staff setting the goals based on the library boards.
well, that's what goals are. There's a high level.
Depends on if they're objectives and
The staff is implementing the high level goals, but I would also say the board product. I could argue is that a comprehensive 5-year plan? The board version of that, as we currently, in its current incarnation as a high level goal document, is that a comprehensive plan? I think the staff version of it is.
what the board produced and voted on is what the state library is recommending.
Yeah.
That we do.
Right, but is there a conflict with this word comprehensive that's here currently?
So, do we want to get into the wordsmithing of each of these today, or just decide what we want to carry forward and where it needs to land? Because I do think this is an important discussion for the board to have about.
Yeah. I think we definitely want to decide today what to carry forward, and I think this is important. It has to be part of whatever final product we have. That's the parameters of what we do, who
And
we are. It's the why.
I do agree, I agree with Ann, at least at the level to say we need to kind of discuss this. We need to dive into this at some point.
Yeah.
What does each of these phrases mean?
Yeah.
And what is our actual practice going to be? The thought in my mind is this. I think if this, to the extent these things are happening, I think they probably are going to happen within the context of the 5-year plan committee. So I wonder if it lands there where there's a discussion of board committees and their responsibilities and goals, and if it lands there. Or it could be the opposite. It could say this is a high level requirement and the board committee is the way that the board carries it out. I could go either way.
Should we bring it to the board then?
I feel like the board wants us to come with a package of recommendations, and then they'll discuss further.
But if we
Yeah.
develop a policy that's called board, the JMRL. Board,
procedures or.
yeah, governance and
Governance.
procedures, this language needs to be in it. It identifies what the board's goals are.
It sounds like everybody agrees that this
But
is,
this
we need to keep
yeah,
this
a large-
something here. Can it be part of a larger policy? That makes sense to me.
Yes.
Yes, Martha, so
Mhm.
we're batting pretty good on two of those. I think I would say maybe, Mike, for the language that maybe needs to be cleared up, what we can do is point to what the current, like, how have we been doing this for the 20 years since this was written? So it could include mention of like, by, reviews, by creating a 5-year plan committee, or by having the staff implementation plan, or by directing the director, or whatever it might be. If we wanted to, we could add more detail about how the board has been doing that.
Yeah.
Or the board could decide, like, we want to come up with a new procedure. To keep.
Okay, so let's at least, so we want to keep it in terms of a bullet point. Tentatively, let's put it into this master document. I mean, again, not to get too much into wordsmithing, but your kind of conceptual header for this new document of board procedures. This is not really a procedure. A procedure is how you carry something out.
I like governance.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's a good suggestion.
Board governance. Is that what
Yeah,
it
this is the roughest.
Yeah, it's a working title, I understand, yeah. But we're feeding back on the working title. I don't know if you need to redline,
This is just for my own, like, here's.
Board governance and procedures policy, yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
okay,
Okay.
all right, so we're gonna carry
So-
it forward into governance.
I just wanted to point out though, Mike, before we did that the one that we're skipping this committees, which is a separate policy at this point that this body has talked about very recently. Like, we just had this read by the board because we added some detail there about what the tech committee was doing and what the policy committee was doing. So currently, this was kind of the board that set this up decades ago considered these all how the board is run, but that's not under consideration currently unless the policy committee wants to take it up again. Because otherwise we're skipping right to minutes of the Board of Trustees meetings.
This again, I wonder if we're actually doing all of this. Yeah, this exact same.
It's pretty close. I mentioned to the other trustees, Mike, when you were coming in, that Sierra is here to take notes, but she's also here as an important voice in this, as the person who actually takes those notes. She also brought a copy of Robert's rules too, so.
Right. Yeah.
Chime in if you. have ideas.
So this is the current policy, what we're doing.
Yes.
But certainly, if we're doing procedures for small boards, that should be documented and carried forward. Well, I'm at
Yeah.
126.
I'm missing something in the
Yeah.
my handouts, it looks like. Well, that's nice.
1.27?
Yeah, next one, the next one.
7, sorry, so wait, procedures.
This is a procedure.
Let's see. 6. Yeah, sorry, I got ahead of myself there. So procedures at the JMRL Board of Trustees meetings.
1.26.
2.6, yes. The handouts are correct. I brought the wrong thing up. So we did cross-reference this, Sierra and I, against Robert's rules. I would suggest that, anytime we're referencing the rules, we wouldn't reference the exact edition. We would just say most recent. And also, this is verbatim for the most part. What it says in Robert's rules about how.
My opinion, reading this, is that it's a useful extraction of the relevant summary. So I would not want during a meeting, if there's a question, for someone to have to go flip through Robert's rules and, oh, I found this on page 33. Well, wait, I found something else on page 36.
I think some of it to me seems superfluous. Members are not required to obtain the floor, which they can do while seated.
The chair need not rise when putting questions to them.
Because, otherwise we've been doing this wrong.
Right, nobody ever rises.
There's a lot of rising and leaving the chair.
Nobody else.
This needs to be updated. I mean, I think just clarify.
I think I'm probably of the opinion that we would just say
Look at.
JMRL board uses the procedures for small boards from Robert's Rules of Orders. But Mike, I take your point that you would want some stuff that comes up.
Yeah, I just don't want, I want to limit the potential, and of course, I've never seen it in a number of years, for gamesmanship around the rules if there's some, disagreement. Oh, I'm going to appeal to the rules and to get around this disagreement. And the more clear we can be about the way we've been conducting things, the less opportunities I feel there are to do that.
This is probably then like a few bullet points after a statement saying the board follows Robert's.
Yeah,
I think might be kind of what I was thinking
sure.
here. I just said using Robert's Rules small boards guidance. But then
Yeah, I just don't, if there's a new trustee, they're not going to read that and not going to read through that. And if they did, they wouldn't understand the relevant points that are kind of.
You're telling me you didn't read through Robert's
I
Rules?
did not, I've never cracked it, because I had this,
Yeah, I've looked at it.
There you go.
because I had this useful summary.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So then what are the important parts that we would want to pull? Unless we're just gonna take this, wholesale.
Well, motions need not be, I mean, there's some of it.
That comes up periodically, like motions need not be seconded.
Yeah.
There's
And no limit to the number of times a
Yeah.
member can speak.
Obtain the floor sounds like a procedural thing that we don't have to do, which they can do while seated, but
They don't.
just clarify that I don't have to ask the president to,
Gonna have the floor.
yeah, that's useful.
An informal discussion is permitted.
A vote can be taken.
Without a motion having been introduced.
I mean, I guess I wonder if we want this, but I guess if it is in the rules and we're following the rules, we would.
Don't we usually propose a motion?
I have seen this board say things like, I move after a discussion. I move that we do that basically, but then it's always up to the note taker and I to figure out what was just. We need some clarity for the minutes to say like, here's what the action happened, because the minutes aren't going to capture the whole discussion.
Right.
What actually was decided.
But we're talking about the third from the bottom.
Yeah.
This is saying what's written on the paper is a vote can be taken without any motion.
That doesn't make any sense, actually. Like, why would you, what are you voting on if there's no motion?
Well, it's perfectly clear to all. Yeah, we could be,
We could change that.
Yeah, I mean, it would be my druthers that the board would always have a clear motion so that
Right.
for
Mhm.
posterity later on, you can say, here's what was decided.
yeah, I would just strike this,
I don't think it's necessary to
I would
include.
strike this paragraph.
Yeah,
It's more confusing than
Mm.
useful.
and I don't think you need the chair, need not.
Yeah, I think I would strike that.
The last one either. So that means we're limited with 4 things, and we can go back and look and see if there's anything included in these procedures that is something that the board regularly does that needs to be.
So the 4 we're doing are,
Don't need to obtain the floor. Motions don't need to be seconded. There's no limit to the number of times a member can speak, and informal discussion is permitted.
the ones we're keeping,
Those are the
Those are
ones.
the-
informal, no limit, motions need not be seconded,
Members not
required to obtain the,
I have seen, Mike, I know what you're talking about, that not necessarily gamesmanship, but I've been at meetings that use the small minutes where like somebody will want to talk about something and then somebody else there'll be a motion and then somebody will table it or the chair will table it and then they won't allow any further discussion about it, which has not generally been the way this board has operated. As long as there's still something to discuss and there's time to do it, they've always discussed it. But like, at that point, this wouldn't help. It would mean going back to, and I think at that point, the chair at the time was right there. Once it's tabled, discussion's over, there is no voting. I don't love that. I think it's good to be able to talk things through.
Yeah, at that point, you would, I guess, fall back. I don't think we can recover every situation here. That wouldn't be the goal, but just to set the tone and the general way that things proceed. I'm happy with
yeah,
this
I think it
first
has to
one.
reflect our current practice.
Yeah.
And then my only question and we're striking the last 3, and then this little intro paragraph about the
Quote, do we need to?
quote, do we need it? I guess not. If it were saying the procedure for small board.
Right. This is saying why we're allowed to use it. And I think we could just say we're using it.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless the board, if the make of the board changes to be more than 12, then all this stuff needs to be revisited anyway.
Okay, so don't include the quote. All right.
And I think we said on the guidance, Robert's Rules of Order, and then it would be most recent edition or something.
Yes, David
Yes,
said that.
yeah. And take out 11th edition.
What's the most recent edition, Sarah? Well, okay. Not that bad off.
Otherwise you have to update it every time a new one comes out.
I don't know how often. I think it's only been updated once in 30 years or whatever.
2016.
And I did double check, the 13th is not out yet,
Okay. Is it on the way?
not that I could see.
I would think that there probably are major revisions coming because this came out before remote meetings were a thing, so there probably will be major revisions on the way, so might be discussing all this again.
Edition 12 came out in 2020, and 13th is not yet officially released.
Yeah, it came out like right when all meetings moved virtual. That's funny.
Okay,
How do we do a meeting when it's virtual?
next is just chronologically here is public hearing policy. And I'll ask you, David, if you can find it quickly to pop open the public comment policy also, just for comparison. So we are, I believe, required by law to offer public comment at public meetings. Is that true?
Not in all scenarios. No, I don't know what the exact rules are. We're required to notice them and to have the meeting open to the public. I don't believe that we are required, but we always have. I think it's best practices. Yeah.
We've chosen to, and that's been,
And don't quote me on that. I would
yeah, go back, but I'm curious if public comment requires us to do that in terms of our own policy.
Yeah.
And yes, will be held at the second one right after that. So what David has highlighted is essentially I'll just walk through this in my own order here. The following sentence says, at each regular meeting, we will have a public comment period, and that's our normal practice. And sometimes people do that, and often they don't. But then the highlighted sentence is referring to this policy that we're looking at, 1.62, which says You can also just say, hey, there's a topic of interest in our community. We're not having a business meeting. What we've done in the past is just carved out extra time at a regular business meeting. But we could also say, well, we're just gonna have a special hearing that only addresses this topic. And then that gives us some extra time and doesn't conflict with the other business we have and so forth. So that's what the highlighted sentence is referring back to this policy, and then we can open the policy, which says if we do have this special meeting, public hearing, this is how it would be conducted.
Yeah, this doesn't say no participation.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
the 30 minutes before.
Yeah,
I'm not even seeing the length, like, would it be, our public comment? We did go through a fairly detailed review of the public comment aspect of it also within a few years ago. And so we talked some things about the length and,
Yeah, this limits to 5.
And
I don't
procedures.
remember what our other one is.
Right.
Is it 5?
Oh,
Is it 3? I know we discussed it.
So there are certain public bodies that are required to hold public hearings for, budget season's a good time for this. Like all of our jurisdictional partners are required to hold a public hearing for their advertised tax rate for the upcoming fiscal year's budgets in state code. So I believe that JMRL probably adopted a policy that was either Charlottesville, Albemarle, Green Louisers, or Nelson's, thinking this is the best way to do this. I think my thinking about this is that while this is like in a glass in case of need, this doesn't come up. It hasn't come up in my tenure as the library director, although there have been times at which we could have potentially used this. So I think it's important information to preserve somewhere so that the public knows. But if, Mike, what you're leaning towards is we should amend the public comment to add a public hearings section, I think I would sign off on
yeah, I
that.
think what I'm looking for at this moment, if you scroll back up into this one, is this one sentence. That one sentence essentially stays. We don't need a special policy. We just say the rules for the public hearing policy would be the same as the public comment rules. So you're only writing it once. Except maybe you would say up to 2 hours or something.
Yeah, I think there'd be like a few.
I'm just trying to reduce the duplication because I think we would reuse a lot of those.
And I think that probably we would want something along the lines of that.
No, but that sentence essentially is already in the other document.
Okay.
You would just, you might make that sentence, this sentence that you just had highlighted a little longer, a little more detailed.
So is the recommendation then that we fold this 1.261 public comments into the existing policy? I mean, I'm sorry, fold 1.262 public hearing into the public comments?
Mhm.
And do we want to keep public comments as its own distinct policy?
no, I don't think we need to do that.
So you want to get rid of the public comments policy?
No, we want to keep that
Okay.
public comment.
Okay. When we want that to remain its own distinct thing, it shouldn't be part of this master guidance for the board. I agree.
Yeah, I think you need,
But I think in our master guidance, you could say,
It couldn't be
we-
titled public comments and
there are
public
times
hearings.
when
yeah,
we have public hearings. I wouldn't,
Or the title of the policy can be public comments and hearings.
yeah.
Then you've got both of them there. And going back and forth, there was one thing here in the hearing of the written transcripts of remarks may be handed to the board chair. And I don't know whether or not that is in our public.
Can somebody help me move this thing out of the way?
There is a way to move it.
I had floating meeting room control. There you go. Thank you.
Now you'll never get it back. But
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, we'll deal with that later. We'll deal with that later.
but
I'm sorry,
what
Martha.
I'm saying, can we reference in our global board governance and procedures that the trustees may hold public hearings, and then just reference this.
I would say maybe something in the governance that says, see policy such and such for public comment, and the board may also hold public hearings also guided by policy such and such. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and then we don't need this policy. This public hearing policy. But did you do that when you had the name?
We never did a
No.
public hearing.
Oh, you
No,
never
it's just
did a
public
We did,
comment.
we did,
We did
So it was
information
just a
sessions.
Regular
and
board.
there were regular board meetings, so we didn't schedule anything separate. We did one meeting,
It's information.
there was a working group that had open public, stream meeting, I believe.
I don't recall that.
They weren't.
My recollection, but I could be wrong, was that there were 2 meetings where there was a lot of public input, but it was just during the,
Never, we did one, the working group kind of put together something with other speakers that was a public.
yes.
There was a
So there was
public.
one, but there was
That was not
It
even,
wasn't.
public comment.
yeah, that was not a public hearing either.
No,
it was
That
information session.
that was an information that the board was
There was no
seeking.
public comment.
Yeah, the board was seeking information from these external groups.
Well, I could easily see this coming up, that we would hold a public hearing on something. So I want to make sure we keep it
And then,
available.
so I agree, and my observation is there's 2 components. There's the public hearing is a possible vehicle.
Right.
And then B, if you do a public hearing,
It's in
what are the rules for how it is conducted? And my observation is those rules, I
Or
think,
in the public comment.
would be very similar to, maybe not identical, as David is pointing out, but would be very similar. So I want to just maximize the reuse of what we've already come up with for that. I think probably if we're sort of on a broad agreement on that, we can just say, as part of our package, we're going to fold the overall approach is we're folding this into public comments, and then at a later time, we can
Tweak that one.
we can dive into public comments and see exactly what wording needs to be added to accommodate the possibility of a public hearing.
I see a few things here that might need to be addressed in the new policy, because like clearly this one says, there might be an end to it after 2 hours. Like, does the board still want to do that, or instead will we go to something
And I
different?
think that is covered in public comment also, although I think it's 1 hour. It's the first bullet there, number 1.
Yeah, so that was for just general, like today, there's.
Mhm.
Although this doesn't say that,
They're gonna.
it says it resumes, so there's no ending
One
point.
at the end, yeah.
That's what they do at city council.
That's like city council. Yeah.
Okay, so I think it sounds like we have an approach identified for this.
We're gonna put something in the board governance doc that says, public comment is encouraged, check out this policy, public hearings are an option. Look at this policy, and then we're gonna fold the hearings into the public comments.
Yes.
So one thing I see in public hearing is, I was thinking about written transcripts of remarks, maybe handed to the board chair.
Yeah.
Having been in public hearings and stuff, there's a lot of information that gets sent via electronically to like the board of supervisors and stuff, so then people can.
Sometimes before.
Yeah, that
Before the
is
meeting,
addressed in the comments.
is it?
Commenters may request at least 24 hours in advance, though, that a written statement.
That's slightly different though.
Library director be read aloud.
This is how I can submit
That's.
something to be read, but
Yeah.
he's talking about a transcript of something somebody already
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
And I think there's an
In
issue.
other words, letters to your representative.
I don't even know what that means.
Are they different? I took those to mean the same thing, like here, read my
Oh,
statement.
Statement, right.
Or my mother couldn't be here, but she wrote this statement to be read about whatever the topic is.
Sometimes they give them, like at city councils, they'll give them information about their organization.
Flint or, yeah.
Just general information.
Yeah, I'm not sure there. We'd have to
It's
think.
not read. by anyone.
Right, but can I bring a handout if I'm publicly commenting?
Yeah, and I could see that if you had a public hearing on an issue that,
You had a lot of data or something that you wanted.
You've done that in public comment too, like specifically during the discussion of the name of the library, I got letters from elected officials that I would share with the board during that time, so they weren't exactly public comment, but they were.
They're back in.
There's feedback to someone.
To the topic at hand. Okay, but anyway, we've got a plan for how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay, now you're on minutes.
Now we get to minutes. I'm trying to jump ahead. The minutes is lengthy. It's 3 pages. It is all procedure and it is almost all taken directly from Robert's rules.
Yeah, so we don't need this in. Right, can't refer to the
So-
procedural minutes.
So here's what I pulled out as what I thought was important from that. We're gonna follow Robert's rules, which is the whole first page. If there's a certification of a closed meeting, that needs to be included. That's the law. So maybe we need to say that, or maybe we don't, but like we have to do that. For example, when the board goes into closed session for my annual evaluation, there's a sheet that everybody signs or the board
Mhm.
president signs that needs to become part of the minutes.
Yeah.
I think it's important, the third bullet point, FOIA requires that minutes be kept for the meeting of 3 or more board members. So we have to have minutes of committee meetings.
Yeah.
I think that's important. I don't know, the name and subject of a guest speaker can be given.
It's interesting though that, sorry, on the previous point, that those minutes are never really reviewed or
Yeah,
approved.
they're just available. We don't even post them. They're
Right,
available.
Had a question on too, is that I take notes, but they're not in like the official minute form. And whether or not, if we wanted to have the minutes, if those needed to be in a more professional form like the regular minutes are.
Right now, it's more of a, bullet point, like here's what was discussed, here's what Ann said, here's what Mike said, here's what Krista said.
We also have it all recorded. So,
But still by law, we're required to have minutes.
Right, I would go back to we want to comply with whatever the law is. We're required to have minutes. Is our current bullet point format, does that meet the requirement? Does the FOIA Act specify anything about the format of the minutes?
FOIA doesn't, Robert's rules does.
Right, but the question I'm trying to address in my mind is, whatever we're doing, does that meet the requirement of law that's referenced right there?
Yeah, I think we would probably ask either the FOIA counsel or our legal representation about that.
Probably should.
I bet it does not require a specific form.
Yeah.
I don't think that one of our guest speakers should, I don't think that's necessary. That's a procedure.
So this, comes up, if we did have a meeting in which a lot of people would comment, like what does the board want to preserve there? Just that there was public comment, or who made the public comment, or what the public comment was? I don't think there are any requirements for that either.
is that the guest speaker?
Yeah, that's different from a guest speaker.
Oh.
No, I was taking guest speaker as
As against somebody we invite.
Oh, like
That's-
a-
yeah, the CEs.
I don't think that needs.
So no, we don't need to give information about that. Minutes will generally be limited in length to 2 pages. I don't know that we need to put 8.5 by 11.
Yeah.
I do think it's useful to have the 2 pages guideline. For the staff that are doing this, I don't know.
But that's,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Doesn't say what size font. Size 16 font, you're done.
And had to make it a little smaller to fit on 2 pages.
Margin.
Or the margins are adjusted, or the.
Court brief. That's the only thing.
And it says generally, so
Is that what Robert says generally? Does it say that?
I don't know.
Where did that?
I can find out.
Generally.
These are, and again, these are just the ones that I pulled out as thinking maybe we would need. There's a lot more that's in here.
Yeah,
The one thing that comes up,
And it says will, not may. That's interesting.
is whether, like, who's here in person and who's here virtually. You know, we've gone back and forth on how to record that. Robert's rules doesn't, of course, address
The new
it.
version will. I
That,
bet the new version.
the
will.
new one probably will, but currently we're not saying, we're not making a differentiation between a board member. It's in the minutes when they get voted in, so we're not making a distinction about who's in person or who's virtual. I don't know if that's important or not. It should be the goal of the library system to conduct this mailing within 7 days of the applicable board meeting. It's mostly doable. Sometimes it falls outside if there's a holiday or something. If there's the next Monday, there's a holiday, but that's still, it's the goal.
Should it just say 7 business days? That will address holidays.
Do you have thoughts on that? Is a week enough time?
Yeah, I usually have found a week to be enough time.
Albemarle's Board of Supervisors has been talking about this quite a bit. I sent you that thing the other day. They do a verbatim minutes, so it's all like every word that gets said, and they have tried really hard. Yeah, basically like a stenography, and they tried very hard to. They were they weren't getting them within whatever their board felt was a timely fashion, so they've upgraded some, however.
Sounds to me like that could be automated. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll just throw one perspective into the mix here. I don't want to be terribly prescriptive, but at the same time, I'm thinking from the perspective of someone who's an outsider who becomes interested in some aspect of the board's governance and just wants to understand what can I expect to be documented. And so now the idea that the fact that we record the meetings now, I guess really is a super game changer in terms of what I'm just describing. So maybe it's not as important anymore. But I do think failing that, which is not written down anywhere that it's a requirement, it's practice that we're choosing to do. Failing that, I think the public has a interest in kind of understanding what to expect. And that's just my general perspective on some of these things. And hey, you had this expert, but you didn't write down in the minutes what the expert actually said, and so I don't have a way to understand what he said. And I think you're doing something wrong. I mean, having this written down in advance would say, well, that's not our practice, and we've written it down in advance, and it's not a special case this time that we're trying to shield what the expert said. So I think there is a place. From that perspective, there is a place for having some of these bullet points, carrying them forward so people know what to do.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
bigger view, are we all on the same page that this can be rolled into a board governance? Does it need its own separate policy, or can this be rolled into a board governance policy?
I think it can be rolled into the board governance policy. So the
Some
public
elements
can
of it.
just look at one place for all this.
Of
information.
how the board operates, yeah.
Including board minutes.
My answer would rely on what level of detail we thought was important. If we feel like we need to really kind of be detailed, then that to me turns into a addendum or annex or something. It's not in the middle of the board governance. You don't have 2 pages of detailed requirements. If it turns into a summary, like a few bullets, then yes.
Yeah, I think that's where we're landing. I mean, if you look through this, like this does not,
Oh,
my opinion is it does not help a member of the public trying to figure out what to expect at a board meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
Or of the minutes of the board.
And the procedure manual,
That's an entirely
different.
staff-led thing, so
Staff.
we don't currently have any board procedures per se. There are certainly, we have a board policy manual,
That's it.
and there's a procedure manual which tells the staff how to, think about like the materials collection
Yeah.
policy. There's a
But
procedure
there's no
that says how to do
procedure
that.
manual that
No,
draws some of these details. Okay.
this is it,
Right.
this section of the board policies.
I mean, the way that could work is if we said staff will record the minutes. We'll have a staff recorder who will achieve these high level goals. And then there could be a procedure for the staff. Well, here's exactly how you.
We could do that because this is, the board is not actually keeping these minutes.
Does it actually say that? I mean, who does it say? It says there's a secretary.
Yeah.
Oh, well, which we don't have.
We do, we have a board reporter.
She's not.
Yes, yeah.
She's not
And
a
the board
board.
secretary.
We don't have a secretary member, yeah, board member.
So that's wrong, actually.
Yeah.
They recorded.
Yeah, this one says the board secretary shall attend board meetings for the purpose of.
I don't think anybody would want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, did you?
It wouldn't have, yeah, you would.
I'm sure Sarah would, I just want to give up the responsibility.
Yeah, even this, the board secretary.
I always interpreted that to be
Staff, you know,
the person keeping notes for the staff as a member of the body, but
Yeah.
yeah, secretary is traditionally an officer role in
Yeah.
most organizations, right? Like the Friends have a board
You're
secretary.
thinking of it as the board's secretary.
Yeah, I think I've been thinking about it wrong.
But all the other boards, they have a secretary and a treasurer.
Yeah.
And they play those two.
Yeah.
I think I would,
I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
misleading. to
yeah,
say-
I would advocate for clarifying that the board keeps minutes with these high level goal guidelines, including the Roberts rules following. The board does that by, the staff facilitates that by, having a staff recorder, I would say maybe, staff recorder, who carries out these guidelines. And then if you want to have a procedure separately for how that happens, it's probably not a bad idea.
Yeah.
And that would look more like this.
Yeah, but then you're talking about removing all those things that you just said about wanting to make sure the public could get those things,
Yeah.
then they're all gone. They're in a staff.
Well, we'd have the high level bullets of what this public can expect. So things like the turnaround time, I think would be something, and the scope generally.
Yeah.
I would keep those, but there's,
Minutes will be available 1 week after,
Yeah.
or 7 business days after,
Our
board
goal-
meeting.
It's our goal.
yeah.
And even though, right, so yeah, we're getting in the weeds, but like those go out to you all.
Right.
And to anybody who requests them, but they don't get posted until the board approves them. So like right now, there are no minutes on the board page. The only publicly posted ones, because there was no quorum last month, would be like January's, right? Is that right?
I thought we were posting the draft earlier, at least the draft is in the handouts at least, which is 10 days before.
Yeah, the handouts is a week before generally. But still not a week after the board meeting. And maybe that matters, maybe it doesn't. It's available, like there's a member of the public who has an ongoing FOIA request to get CC'd on them as they go out.
Right, but as soon as you send the draft to the board members, then it's FOIA-able at that point.
Yeah, even before that, the draft versions of it.
Right, that's what yeah, as soon as the draft is created, that someone can.
Okay. So
Where does it say that our board meetings are recorded?
I don't think it says that anywhere.
But they are,
Yes,
and they are available to the public.
yes.
So we need to add that.
If we want to require it, then we would need to add it, right? Right now, it's just a practice that we've been doing, but there's been no. It's not documented anywhere that we're required to do that.
I'd be in favor of the board though, as long as the technology is there and we have that capacity. I think it's worth a.
That's just good practice, yeah.
And it's not worth doing if the public
If
doesn't.
they don't know about it.
It takes the heat off the minutes, I think.
Right. Yeah, at that point, you can write your own minutes very easily.
Yeah.
Okay, I think, so are we agree, let me recap and see if everyone agreed with this. Within the governance document, there will be sort of a high level goals and scope of minutes and some of the high level ground rules. We're gonna change references to the board secretary to something like a staff reporter. because we don't have a board secretary. And then if staff wants to create a procedure that would be more detailed in how the secretary achieves these high-level goals, then they can do that.
So we need to take out the board secretary.
We're gonna change that.
Yeah, I think most of this is gonna get changed.
What, thoughts, David, it seemed like you had some thoughts about this approach.
No, I'm just thinking about timing on this because we had just started this spring, staff procedures working group, because the procedures are much more out of date than the policies are. We've just been adopting those as needed. So there are tons of old procedures that need to get worked on, and Sierra just created a prioritized list of what those need to be, and this probably needs to get added to that list and moved up. So.
Well, it's because the board policy committee is so productive.
It's so efficient.
And just cranking out the policy.
You're so efficient.
Staff has to rock. Okay,
You're doing, yeah, you're creating.
we have just 5 or 10 minutes left, and so I think we're done with the minutes.
Yeah.
And so really, is it true that there's only one more in this
Well,
group?
there's policy manual changes,
Yeah.
and did we do procedures for board changes to the policy manual, which is not actually up yet, but it's part of this group.
Right.
So there's kind of two things.
And I think it might be a
they're the
little
same
out of
thing.
date. I think it might be out of sync a little bit with our existing practice
Oh,
anyway.
yeah, I'm sorry, they just have two different names there, so.
This is one.
1.28. So this one is not up for 10-year review, but it's a part of that group.
We can fold this into this new policy.
I would say too. So this probably would, we can look at the committees too, because we did some work on this a little bit when we developed what does the policy committee do for the committee's policy?
Right.
I think that the gist of this is not bad. There's just some details that need to be cleaned up. So I think this could be rolled into the governance. And what did I say? I thought the most important things were, we would want to say, like, our current practice is to review things on a 10-year basis or as requested by the board, director, member of the public, anybody really.
Although as part of this theoretical policy manual rework, we've talked about on a case-by-case basis, setting a different schedule than 10 years. So for example, technology-related stuff might be a 5-year review.
Yeah, so we could say at least on a.
Yeah, something like that, but sure.
And there are some things, like that are actually policies that we call schedules at the board, but like today, you're going to talk about the schedule for closings for next year, and that's technically in our policy manual. It's got a policy number, and that gets reviewed every year. Policy committee can recommend the creation of new policies or deletion of current policies to the full board. The full board can task the policy committee with review and or drafting of policies.
I do think this number one is important, that anybody in Virginia or the world can suggest things, and we'll. I guess it doesn't say what happens after you make the suggestion. It just says it goes to the director's desk.
And number 2, in number 2, it says what happens.
Yeah, that's the workflow.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know if that's even the workflow, depending on what a final proposal means.
It's really not, yeah, because those come out of this body now.
No, they're not the input. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, we could, so we review, in all these, we're going to review the specifics. But the question is, does it need to be separate? I guess not.
I don't think so.
But I think you have a good point that we need to cross-reference this with the committee descriptions. Just for overlap.
Or we could even, it doesn't bother me to have some redundancy sometimes if
Sure.
in places maybe it's just language that we can use to keep consistency.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is that this is an agreement that we're gonna wrap most of these policies into a new policy about board governance, except for public comment, which will go into the existing, I'm sorry, except for public hearings, which will go into the existing public comment document, but we will reference that in this document.
Yeah, definitely
Mhm.
reference that.
I think that's a good plan.
Yeah.
And I think that we could, Mike, it's reasonable to say we could have drafts of those things ready to go for June.
Probably, here's some thoughts. It might be worth, and we talked about this a little bit, and maybe they're not really out there, but I think it has been useful recently to just look at what other bodies have done in these areas and kind of, you don't have to read them all anymore. You can just kind of extract bullets and see if other people have thought of things or covered things that we haven't covered. So that might happen in the next 2 months, or it might not. And anyone here is invited, of course, to do any research along those lines.
You mean look at other libraries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anywhere in the world, is there some good thing that should be in this territory that we haven't thought of? I am interested to see what this draft looks like. It is occurring to me great in terms of the structure. How long is this going to be? Because that might work well in terms of reading it, but I'm thinking of our 10-year review. That might be a big chunk that gets reviewed only every 10 years. Right now, we review things in sort of these more atomic, smaller chunks. And that allows you to focus on what, each topic at once. So
I mean, these were already on that, like even if we did them all
Yeah.
separately, they'd be on the same 10-year schedule.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
And also, I have a feeling that what we're gonna end up with is gonna be shorter than the current
Yeah.
minutes one
Yeah.
here.
Mhm.
So
But yeah, I mean, then we could look at it and see, and if it seems unwieldy at the time, then.
Right. So that's a thought in my mind. I think I have kind of the same expectation as you, is that it will be wieldy, but if it's not, if it's unwieldy, then there are some benefits potentially for kind of having separate things that you look at.
Now, let's see how it looks.
Yeah.
And then if we want to pull out one,
Yeah, agreed.
like the minutes or something.
Yeah, we can always do that.
All right, but yeah, that'll be the goal between now and then, is to kind of take today's discussion and start to roll that into some language.
And then what does come up later on?
Oh, in this year?
Yeah, I think
David has
August.
a,
Is that right? I think it's just,
no, there was one kind of big one. Yeah, notaries was the big one.
um.
Like we're, yeah.
Yeah, I think the only other one for the year is notaries, but that is potentially a big one, so we were planning on having a continuing ed about it this summer before, so if we can maybe finish all the board stuff in June, maybe, then the policy committee could be looking at August to be starting to talk about notaries, which is there's a lot.
And
And then-
maybe have a continuous. before.
Yeah, for the policy committee, so that would be in June or August, something like that. I guess June or July.
And then I would love to have the full table of contents review. Basically, that would not involve, it basically reorders some things.
Yeah.
The order right now is not necessarily
Makes sense.
make it very sensible if you're trying to read it from front to back. So I think that's, oh yeah, the internship we talked about, as part of volunteers. So that would, this would be an opportunity.
If we have time.
Give them the opportunity to just. Okay. All right, anything else for today? Great, thanks everyone.
Thank you. Maybe come on.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.